See if we can get this. That's a bit better angled now. There we go. Okay, now just connecting up the plier lead so that we still have power as we go. And hopefully that is going to serve us quite nicely. Hopefully we'll get a few more people joining sometime soon. Now, serve us quite nicely. Now it always helps whenever I turn down the actual. When I turn down the actual volume on my iPad. Okay, so this evening what we're going to do is we're going to tackle this scene from the beautiful Athens, which I had the privilege of being in a couple of weeks ago. If you haven't seen the video on the cruise, there'll be some little bits of Athens there. For those of you who are watching back, thank you for watching. And for everybody who comes on, well, we've only got one on at the minute, please do comment. Oh, we've got 4 people on, so I love the chat in a live. So please do feel free to keep chatting away with me. What I really like about this is that actually it's quite quirky. We've got a nice perspective to work with here, and we've really got the blue of the landscape, or not the landscape, of the sky, which is just absolutely wonderful. So we're going to start with watercolor and ink, and I'm just going to jump right in here. And this is Meaden paper, and I am really looking forward to using it. Now I did one fairly recently of Gleno, that those lovely little cottages, and it was just a joy. Do you know, it was a joy. I was trying to put in the day because it was the day before we went on holiday, and it was one of those days that you're just trying to put in the time. Now that maybe is a little bit more severe than I need it to be, so let's just correct this up. You call me live, Robin. Hello, Robin. And what we're going to do then is we're just going to keep going with this. So what I absolutely loved about when I did that drawing was there was lots of kind of scratching over. It just felt really free whenever I was doing it. I've been watching this guy that I found on Instagram, and he draws like a child, and I just think it's absolutely fantastic. And he put up fairly recently someone kind of lambasting him for drawing like a child and how it was utter nonsense, and I just thought it was just, hello Bernadette, and I just thought it was absolutely wonderful. So get this line a little bit stronger down here. So that was one of the things I loved about it, was his just playful nature, you know, and how that came across when he was doing it. Excuse me. Excuse me. It is warm in the studio this evening. We actually had quite a warm day here in Northern Ireland. We've actually been having pretty exceptionally good weather as well. So whenever, I don't know how many of you actually saw the video I did of the hacks of drawing perspective, but until you can actually see, thank you Bernadette, until you can actually see perspective, then it's very, very hard to draw. So what I love is actually really, sometimes I don't really relish the idea of getting into drawing something like this, but actually today I had that kind of a wee buzz that happens every so often when you're just looking at something, you think, oh gosh, I'd really love to do something with that. So that's what happened today. So we're just footering about with the details really with this at the minute. So and do share with what you're up to today on this Sunday. No doubt you're all in different parts of the world. Hopefully we'll have a few more come on as well, so that would be good too. But in the meantime, thanks to the 6 of you who are currently online. A tissue. Now, is it just me that whenever you sneeze, you always need to blow your nose? So, what we're using tonight, I should really show you what type of paper it is. This is a Meaden watercolor paper. It's cold press, 10x7, 300 GSM, 100% cotton, which is more fancy than I'm normally used to. It was sent to me by Meaden Art to see if I would trial it for them and, you know, put it on social media and all that kind of thing. So I was more than happy to take delivery of it and certainly give it a go. So it's this real hodgepodge of different businesses and buildings in this little section here. Push this all down a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. and we're just going to draw through different bits of it. Now my thoughts are with this, what I'm going to do is probably just do it all really negative space for this, because certainly with the watercolor it's something that I'm going to be able to accomplish and I think will look quite nice. Whereas with the derwent Inktense, when we get to that one, it's going to require just that little bit more colour, and hopefully the two will be significantly different as well, which should be rather nice. Okay, so just sort of highlighting different little bits of detail, things like the little I don't know whether they're lights or whether they're telegraph poles. This is a Fude pen, and it's got that little hook on the side which gives me lots more variation. Excuse me for all the nosebleed. Whenever it comes to the different qualities of line that I'm doing now, I've filled that pen with nothing less than carbon ink. Just going to move that across there, and there's also another one there. A Kalujan from Brisbane. I'd imagine, what time is it there? 9 o'clock in the morning. Is it Monday there for you? It's always mad trying to figure out the time difference with Australia. It's just so significant. Can't imagine if you were doing a long distance relationship or something like that. It would not be easy. Just getting in a few of those little details there. I think what I will do is just add in just that little bit more of the darker area there. Okay, and we're working actually from the other way, whereas with this one we're working from larger to smaller. This time we're working from smaller to larger, which I don't really know there's going to be much of a difference. 6:39 a.m. Whoa, you're up early. Thank you for coming online. Are you heading into work, or what's got you up so early? And the joy I find of just drawing in a more kind of scrapey free way really is incredibly disproportionate. It's just something that's just incredibly enjoyable. So at the minute we're just working on this right hand part of the drawing. And what I find is that it's almost an impression of the scene. It's not obviously the major detail of it, you know, and then there are certain parts of the landmark that you can then sort of highlight almost, to certain things that just make it sort of pop. So these kind of lines here are definitely, you know, certain parts of the structure that make it then seem much more kind of viable. I love traveling, full stop, but what I loved about the cruise was being able to see so many different places. That was just so enjoyable, and I'd never been to Greece before, and that was great. I loved seeing Athens, enjoyed seeing a little bit of the Parthenon, and I loved to see the changing of the guard, but I wouldn't, like, Athens wasn't my favourite place. I really loved Rhodes. Thought Rhodes was absolutely beautiful. Just thought it was an exceptionally beautiful place, and the people were really beautiful too. If we've anybody there who's Greek, shout out to all the Greeks. Just a really, really lovely place, and just really enjoyed the culture as well, and how friendly the people were. Okay, so this drawing, I think I'm pleased as it's going on already, hopefully given that kind of impression of the busyness of the scene. You'd need to be Greek or Athenian to be able to say whether it really looks like an Athenian scene or not, but right now then it comes to a little bit more required sort of slight accuracy, if you know what I mean, not crazy amounts, like, but just trying to pick up on the scene a little bit. So as always, folks, please do comment in. I love reading your comments whenever doing a live. It keeps it kind of alive. Remember, I'm in a room just chatting to myself, really, so the more that you guys talk, the more interesting it is. Okay, now let's see where this goes. So we've got this bit up here. So I find that in building drawings, I am continually trying to find my bearings. It's probably the best way to describe it. So that's something that is, you can tell where I'm focusing now. It's an enjoyable scene to do. Really, really is. Just using that flatter part of the fountain pen there to be able to get that in there. Hello Vermis, how are you doing? Thank you for coming online. Robin, I love a fountain pen, but mine always seems to get clogged and dried up quickly. What brand pen and ink do you find best? Vermis, fountain pen. I use carbon ink. I have found it, now there was one I think clogged a little for me when I was on the cruise, that was it, but I mean again, serious change in temperature. So Robin, maybe are you in a much warmer part of the world? Because in Northern Ireland it's quite damp really, and therefore it's not as much of an issue for me. I would say that the humidity, or are we humid here? Would you describe this country as humid? Well, certainly the climate maybe lends itself well to not getting clogged. The foodie pen, yeah, I love a foodie pen. Just love it. Okay, so we're nearing the end of the drawing part of this. Now, I'm interested to see, for me, how I'm going to tackle it in the Inktense, because I have quite a clear sort of way of tackling it here with this one, but I don't know. Yeah, humid. Vermis, are you in Northern Ireland or are you in England? Look at this nut scratch. It's almost like an ASMR video. Okay, so we're near the end of the drawing bit anyway. So let's get this here. Totally lost where I am. What I find actually really helps is whenever you get lost in a drawing of what you're doing, don't panic. We're just going to do just a couple of lines that are going to give me a little bit more clarity as to where we are and what's going on here. Okay, so I think that's where we're going to finish off this drawing, column 25. And then what I'm going to do as well is, boys, it is warm in here at the minute. And obviously use the stampers. Now if this is a pre-edited video, you wouldn't have to go through the pain of me stampering them. Maybe there's somebody out there who enjoys seeing that process. So what are you all up to on this Sunday/Monday morning for those of you in Australia? Vermis, I use Roar and Klinger's sketch ink in some of my fountain pens and nanocarbon pigment particles, so it clogs less than regular carbon ink. No to say it's foolproof, but I've had no disasters. Excellent. South Tyrone, born and bred. It has been, really has been humid today. I don't remember actually a summer being this warm in Northern Ireland. I mean, for us it's practically tropical. Now, I am very pleased with this drawing, and sometimes that bodes that the next one doesn't come out that well, but we never know. You never know how these things go. So what I am going to do is, all I am going to do is add in one colour with watercolour. Now tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are using the Daniel Smiths, and we'll shove this over a little bit this way. Let's keep this over here. Hopefully you can see a little bit of what I'm doing. So I was thinking, do you know, I might just use that pointed wash actually, the beloved pointed wash. Number 6, still Rowney Aquafine, one of my best purchases. It was quite expensive, don't mind that it was expensive. Just a joy. So we're going to do one colour. I'm going to keep this mega simple. And sometimes I think that we feel we need permission to do things simply, when actually we probably should need permission to do things more complicated. I think it's simplicity, the less is more dynamic in art, is crazy, and I'd like to continue to work at trying to keep things simpler. I just squeezed off the brush there. The reason why I did that was to do the kind of dab and grab to be able to get in more pigment. Actually need to get a new one of those cerulean. Let me tell you exactly what it is. It's a cerulean blue chromium, actually, to give it its correct title. So I would say that's pretty good. So we're just going to straight in there, get those nice dry brush marks, and then we go to the detail. And hopefully that carbon ink is dry, but obviously there's always the danger that it might not be. It'll take 3 minutes to dry in here today, tonight actually, as it is. And I don't know about you, Varmus, but Northern Ireland certainly feels like we're heading towards autumn already, because the nights are really beginning to close in, and when you live this high up in the world, then that becomes a pretty quick thing. Normally, well, obviously it's really the same time of year every year, but now I'm going to read your comments in a second, but I just want to focus as I go around the detail of this. Just a quick glance there at the original artwork, or not original artwork, the original photograph, so that I'm gonna keep an eye on those places. Yes. Now, I am pleased with that. That's all we're doing. It's not very liberating. I find that liberating. And actually, do you know what? Just noticed another totally bit. It's not because I'm adding in other colours. It's because I noticed a total little bit that requires a little bit of my attention. And the total little bit is just this little section in here. That's it. Good. Okay, so what I'm doing now then is I'm going to get my beloved sponge. I bought myself a little sponge from Mykonos, actually, which is a really nice little memory. Isaac 3D printed me this. Not amazing. Incredible. I did a video there using Isaac's little palette, and I have one full now of Maiden Colours, actually, that sent some of them to me as well, so yeah, I'm really pleased with that. Isn't that really, really simple? Okay, let me read your comments. Rob, let me see. Jan Delina, I used TWSB1580 with Kuroguro ink. It was really well. Excellent, yep, 930, and it's dark. And you said nice one to Jan. Is that one of the sailor inks? I know so little about inks. I just use what I love, really. And that always stands me in good stead, because I actually then want to use it. Now, the one thing that I love about the Daniel Smith is look at that separation and how the pigments are just kind of settling in. There's a little bit of brush in there, but I'll not be overly concerned. Okay, so there you go. That's that one. Now, let's move that out of the way, and I'm going to set this over to dry. You'll see it on Instagram tomorrow, and also probably on the YouTube. Let's move that over there. Actually, just set it on top of there. Let it dry its little heart out. Okay, now what we want to do then is close this up, because we don't need this anymore. Because now what we're going to do is we're going to tackle the exact same thing. Now, this is 220 GSM watercolor paper. We're going to use the bumpier side. And just tape it down. So you're a fan of that bright blue as well. I have to say, I think the cerulean blue probably is my favourite of all the colours. I just have always loved it, and it just reminds me of A beautiful blue sky as well, which we don't tend to see a lot of in Northern Ireland, but more recently, as I said, it is just the joy of where we are. Now, what I'm going to do first is open out that I haven't actually used the Inktense for several weeks. Hello, Sandra. Haven't used the Inktense for several weeks. Now, there's 25 of you on here, so not to shame you, but loads of you haven't commented, so do comment. It's awful nice when you comment. No, and also my board is a little bit wonky on your screen, so I apologise for that. That would do my head in, so let's correct that a little bit there. Okay, now, so the scene again for anybody who has just joined is that we are looking at this scene of Athens from my recent cruise, first ever. And what we're going to do is we're going to select the colours that we need. Okay, so this is the Inktense roll. Now, I had actually, do you know what? I need to remove these because these are rogue. These were in here for the, I think, the cruise or for something else. So I need to put those back where they belong. Okay, so what we're going to do first is let's look for the blue. So we've got the dark cerulean, so let's go with that. I think now for the sky, not for the sky, for the buildings. Now, I have a burnt umber, which actually might be quite nice to sketch a little bit with. Then I have got a little bit of amber. Hi, Cindy. Sandra, that's going to be some serious perspective. You had us practice this recently. Yes, and it was a different one. Do you want to, that was in, the other one that I did was in, that's the one that I've just finished. Da, da, da. So, Brian, you're visiting from Gabriel Island, British Columbia. How cool is that? Then what I'm going to do is, no, not the Chinese ink. Some of them are, takes you a bit of time to figure out. Storm dust. Let's go with storm dust. It's a good one. And I'm trying to think of the other colours that I might need. So I don't really want bark. Maybe use a little bit of Payne's Grey. Hard to tell. Okay, now Cindy, what's the perspective tip using tracing paper? Yes, how did you find that? I had suggested that to someone in the class one time because we were really struggling with seeing it, and I said, well, why don't you trace it and then you'll be able to see the lines, and there was a great response to that in the class, so I thought that's a video to do. Mark, was out to be great about walking and sketching day, trees and landscape. Excellent. So that's what I tend to do. Set it down and then look at the scene and then go, right, what colours do I actually need here? Now, the next thing that I need to do, I'm afraid this is very boring for you all, unless you don't have an excellent sharpener and then you've just come in time. This is the Faber-Castell and it was about £5 and it is immense. It is just immense. Just gives you such a great point. Look at that. Now, the problem with one of the factors about the Inktense is that they crumble and they cannot hack serious amounts of pressure because they are obviously not as hard as graphite. So it just takes a little bit of care, really. Now, these colours are going to be totally off whack because they're Inktense. What I'm going to start with is actually, I think I will sketch a little bit with the storm dust. And actually what I'm going to do is, let me see. Cindy just said organising art supplies today. Excellent. Sandra said that's Suzanne, just zoom out and spin. So I think what I'll actually do is let's do this one in continuous line, okay? So we're just going to rock and roll this and see where it goes, okay? So we want nice fluid lines. So I'm starting with the storm dust, okay? I love drawing like this. And actually the other one could have been just a simple exercise. I don't know if you've ever, I'm sure that most of you have done continuous line, but it is just a joy. And the thing that I love, I mean, I'm lost already. I'm actually lost already in what I'm drawing. Isn't that ridiculous? A bit too severe there on the old perspective column. So you just notice, and with the continuous line, there's an element of correcting as you go. So I find as well, this is a good demo because I find that with different media, it brings out different elements of the style that you have. I mean, we all have a style, just like we all have a handwriting, and that style's going to come out however it comes out with different. You think about if you sign with a pencil and you sign with a pen, there's elements of it. Obviously, there's similarities, but there's elements of it that are different as well, you know. So that's what I absolutely love about this. Now, this is the place then to get lost in the details. So because all these lines are going to be tracing out together, then I'm just leaning in. Does anybody else like making sound effects sometimes when they do different lines? Now you can almost tell that this is getting a little bit more blunt just as I go, and because of that, you'll notice that what I do is I roll it around. I actually think that I might use a little bit of black in this as well. Might be a good highlight. You've all gone very quiet. I'm feeling the isolation. Don't forget to chat. Okay, so you can also see that I'm landing a little bit heavier as we go here. These are great for, I find that continuous line, I love continuous line in my sketchbook because, you know, I did loads of it when we were on the cruise ship and drawing people, you know, when we're lying out by the sea, or not by the sea, by the pool and all that kind of stuff. Vermis, Jenny, hear nothing but high praise for Sailor, but the price tag always puts me off. Maybe if it was more of a writer, but it tends to more waterproof drawings. Yeah, I hear you. I mean, there's things here. Do any of you remember the video that I did of the Daniel Smith watercolor sticks? Japers. Boy, that was an investment I really wish I hadn't made, and I have lots of people convincing me that I was using them wrong and all this kind of stuff, but I just can't get past the fact that they just didn't do what I really wanted them to do, you know. And then there was a time that I discovered Inktense, and I was working in a school in Carrickfergus at the time, and they had some, and they let me have a go with them, and it was like going, oh my goodness, these are just incredible. So I think that, you know, there are definitely some things rather than others that work for us. But then I also didn't like the idea. Some people, you can, maybe some of you are on now, that you love the sticks, but you pretty much use them as something that you put, you cut up and then put in your palette. And that really irked me actually, that's, you know, not that you're allowed to do whatever you want with it, but I was like, why would I buy sticks to put into my palette? I bought them to draw with, and it seems like, oh no, they're not for drawing with, but I disagreed. I thought they said that, I thought I read somewhere anyway that they were something to draw with. But hey ho, you live, you learn, eh? And you know, you try these things out, and sometimes they work, and sometimes they don't. Verma said, although sometimes I feel I should get a brush out with FP inks and do some line and wash, but like Inktense. I don't know that I've ever tried. I remember any time that I've used ink and it's run, it's never been a deliberate thing, so that's always been a wee bit of a stretch for me with that. The thing that I love, of course, it's been ages since I've used the Inktense. I actually quite like that it's been a while. I think it's always healthy to get a bit of a break from something, you know, particularly something that you use really regularly, because like this feels like coming home doing this. It's lovely. Okay, we're gonna zone out the detail a wee bit here. What I'm also going to do is lift the italics. This is just where I get bored because I've now drawn this scene twice, so I'm just going to lift and lean a little bit heavier on a couple of these sections. And so just going to go back over a few other spots here in this. And just really highlighting. So this one very much, I mean, you could say that the other one was a sketch, but this one I'm just really loving making the marks with this and making it much darker in certain areas and others, and then I love doing a power line. I can't tell you how much I love doing a power line. Always have. Always for me feels like it kind of grounds an image somewhat, doing in those little bits and bobs, you know. Okay, so let's park that bit now, but what I want to do with the cerulean is just want to come in and play about see ever so slightly the side of it just. Now the wonderful thing about the Inktense is you don't need a whole heap of it. It is the different way of working. Okay, Agent XP07 says, hello, nice to see you live just as I got home from church. Lots of people really love Watercolor 2s. I do really like them, but at the minute I'm just never reach for them. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I get sort of moments of, so this one now is the, sorry, so the first one was the Storm Dust, which is 2107. Then the next one was Dark Cerulean, which is 1010. And then this one is Amber, which is 1710. So what I'm just going to do is just a little bit of this. That one's quite an electric colour as well, so this will be a real game changer in it. But we're also going to allow these to mix ever so slightly. That's alright too. We'll just let that. Okay, and the Vermis laugh out loud. Well, that's the opposite problem I have with other soluble pencils. I keep thinking, if I'm going to brush it out into a wide area of colour, why not use pans? I know, I mean, I think that's, you know, I think where I would get it wrong, let me speak for myself, where I would get it wrong is where I tell other people how they must use things. I've never found that helpful, and particularly with art, because, you know, we all use things in such a different way, and I think that there has to be the freedom. Let me change again. I'm just going to use, do you know what, I could actually do with it. Let's go with mustard, I think. Just a couple of dollops of mustard. See what I did there. Just to bring in a little bit of colour. Now this one is going to be much more abstract. Okay, so the mustard was 1700. And then we're going to go to, what did I use there? I used the amber. And now I'm going to go to the burnt umber, just for a little bit of a different spin on some of these things here as well. So the other thing with this one, because this one's really sharp, is it'll let me get in some imaginary detail. Okay, and just another couple of sections. I think the Storm Dust will be quite nice there. I also had the Payne's Grey out. Now what I might do for the Payne's Grey is just see, are there any areas where that would be applicable and helpful to have that. Okay, I don't really want to do too much more. Okay, so Payne's Grey, which is 2110. Okay, so are there any, I think I've probably covered quite a lot of the sections where I think the Payne's Grey are, but there is, sorry. Just do a little light bit there. This one I've totally lost my bearings, which is probably fine with me. We can maybe fill in a few bits of details and things here. I love drawing like this. Just find it a joy. Okay, so let's just sign this one off. Let's put Athens on again. For those of you who missed the first one, I'll show you how this one's drying over here. So this was the initial one. That's settling really nicely, isn't it? Look at that, and how the pigment's settling into that cotton paper. Lovely. Okay, good. Agent XP says, I keep an Inktense dark cerulean in my bag with a big pen lid on it as part of my minimal sketching kit, as I find it great for adding quick line details to my watercolor sketches. Yeah, I mean, that sounds like an excellent idea. The other thing is that we're using two different types of paper tonight as well. I really like tackling different the same scene, sorry, in different media. Just find it fascinating. Always have. My little stampers, my little finishing, they always finish the drawing bit. Have we got any stampers fans out there? Anybody adopted them? The other thing I think I'll do is I'm going to use a flat brush, not a very thick flat brush. but a flat brush nonetheless. Okay, now time to add the water. We are on the home straight, people. We are on the home straight. Okay, so the water that I've got is going to be slightly tinted, so bear with me 1 second while I refill. Throw this one out the back. Oh, I should let the door be open. It is so warm in here, but then the roof, that's the water filling up, nothing untoward. Then the roof is black, so it's always going to attract the heat. Okay, Sandra says, I bought a little wooden box of stampers, never level though. Yeah, but I don't find that mine are level either, you know. Do you know what? I'm going to use the thicker one. I'll use the size I really love. This is the one here, 3/4 flat wash. Cindy, I just found an Inktense pencil among my pencils labeled outliner 2400. Do you know what that one's for? I think, Cindy, I've played about with it. It's not actually water soluble at all, as far as I can remember. It really is just an outliner, which just is. I remember using it, going, "What is this madness?" But maybe it has application. I'm not sure. So what I tend to do is I use the corner. Now there's quite a lot of, so I've got my little sponge here. But what I do is I tend to use the corner of the flat edge brush just to sort of dance around, and literally that's what I mean. I tend to dance around those details, and I like, oh, these things are incredible. The joy that I find in doing this, honestly, it's wonderful. That's probably why I was in a different box. Probably, Cindy, probably. So the other thing that I love is all of the colours. They really so let me drag this down. Indeed, Agent XP, the magic of adding the water. Vermis, I think the slightly crooked stamper letters look kind of nice, like a retro typewriter effect. Me too. Jan, unfortunately I must leave this live and get on with my day, but thanks Colin, appreciate your time. Goodbye from Brisbane, happy sketching, and catch you next time. Well, Jan, thanks for watching. Have a good day. Can't believe you're at Monday already. But then it's always the time zone that we're in, isn't it? I love that storm cloud or storm dust or whatever the heck it is. And actually these tones are quite nice together, which is a bit of an advantage. So I'm just darting my eyes backwards and forwards really from the scene that we're looking at. I'm hoping that when I do the sky, it'll tie it all in quite nicely together. That's the hope. The misaligned stamping, do you know, initially you feel such pressure to do that it has to be perfect, and then you realise that its charm is in the fact that it's not. And do you know, I can of course accept that for some what they want is the lines disappeared from, but for me it is the lines left by the Inktense that actually are the magic. Look how differently the paper reacts when it's not the cotton. The thing that I like is that when you're using the Inktense, you want to keep the, you know, I was going to say you want to, but I really like keeping it separate so that it's not, now obviously you'll get moments where it kind of flows together, like how much of that is actually staying on the brush. Isn't that insane? I just think these things are incredible. Yeah, it's the crooked lines that really work, isn't it? Now, I'm just going to agitate that to balance out what's going on before. I'm going to leave a couple of those there. Splat on that right hand side. And there we go. That's where Colin stops this evening. Let me show you the two scenes together. So really quite pleased how, so I'm going to bring this up nice and close so you can see, well, it's probably quite dark for you, but at least you can see some of it. But you know what I will do actually, which would probably be helpful. This is where you'll go, I can't believe he did this entire thing in such darkness. You realise I was a bit crazy. Anyway, hopefully you can see a little bit better there now. But there's the second one. So derwent Inktense on 220 C White of Brighton paper. And here is the first one, which is on Meaden 300 GSM full 100% cotton paper. So I really, really like this one. I actually am quite pleased with this too. And I think they both, maybe you can tell it's the same hand, but it's just two different media and just playing about with them. Anyway, I hope you're very welcome, Vermis. I hope for those of you that are watching, whether it is live or whether it's later on, that you have benefited from it and you learned something and you're encouraged by it. Thank you for watching as always, and I will see you in the next video sometime soon. Bye.